it's like I have, or sorry, the unhoused, right?
Yeah.
But really, I have a safe place to live. They're obviously worse on their luck or their life status than I am. And so it's kind of tactless for me to go up there and be like, it's like, oh my God, if I were to, you know what I'm saying? If I were like, say, like, just make some joke disparaging them, it's like, that's, I don't know. It's just not really helping anything, right? And it's kind of like, I think a lot of humor comes from punching at the structures we're all bound by, right? And like unhoused people we're not bound by them, right? They're not choosing to be unhoused as a way to spite us, right? Like, I think that's kind of where it comes from. Anyway, so like, that's just one example. And so like, if someone is making a joke that's like making fun of gay people, if it's coming from a place of like, oh, they know gay people, they've studied this, it's really funny, then I'll laugh. I guess the biggest thing is it has to be funny, right? Like it has to be relatable. And I think I do hear a lot, like I've heard a number of gay jokes where it's like, this isn't, what's really unsettling is when I hear people tell jokes about gay people as if they're hypothetical. When they're like, oh man, I imagine being gay must be awesome. You get to do this, you get to do that. And it's like, you could also just, you don't have to imagine what it's like to be gay. You could talk to a gay person.
Yeah.
Like, it's like so clear some of these people have like being gay is just kind of like a fictional concept to them that they're learning about rather than like a real experience people are having.
But don't you think of like these things like we're in a certain way we're trying to exclude ourselves by not being a part of jokes, like, you know, for, you know, people that are, you know, houseless or homeless, right? Like they, you know, like it's an exclusion. Like by not talking about them doesn't mean they don't exist. By not talking about gay people doesn't mean they don't exist. By not talking about like different, you know, nationalities of people doesn't mean they don't exist. It does generate conversations. You're like, yeah, it could be easy to talk to a gay person. We actually don't know their perspective on like if they know gay people or not, or if they think the joke is like so outside of pocket that they're like, oh, this is funny because this is not what gay people are like. If you know any gay person, you would think this is crazy that I'm saying this, and that's what might make it funny, right? But I think if like we do a lot to shut people down on a lot of like things that we're worried about. Like that's not the right way to say it, but we're not doing a better job to educate, rather than be like, hey, don't talk about gay people, don't talk about homeless people, don't talk about unhoused people, don't do this. Like, here's the way to do it, or let's find better ways. You know?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with like what's the butt of the joke, right?
Yeah.
And like, because so much about comedy it does end up being about status, and like you kind of go to a comedy show. Sorry, this is like getting really high concept about this, right? But if you think of like, oh, you made me laugh because you made me feel like my status is better than something else, right? And so what's really great is like if you're making fun of, I don't know, let's say you make fun of the president of the United States, pretty safe target, right? Just because it's like, if you do something that makes me feel in some way superior to someone who's like that high status, I feel good about myself. I laugh, you know? But if we're just doing that about people who I'm already clearly above, then it just kind of feels like gross in a way.